Welcome back to McCarthy Performance. What I have here is I have the load gauge off of CK10 machine. This was available. This is the old one. It got damaged. This was available through Sunnen. I called up Sunnen. They told me it wasn't available. They gave me Simpson, company that made it for Sunnen. Called them. No longer available through them. Sunnen sold the Gage face. They gave me another number. I tried that guy that they said is making them now currently, and I had no luck with him. So what I did do is I got on eBay, and I knew it was a Simpson gauge. So I looked up gauges, and this guy had the dimension, and I took a gamble, and I bought this gauge. Now, I'm only going to use the face of this gauge. From what I could see in the picture and the description, it was very close to mine. So if you've got an older CK10 machine, and this is Bakelite, not that that matters, but this one is Bakelite too. So imagine if you had a plastic copying machine, you could make one, install the lens, but you have your adjustment for your needle there, for the gain, I guess it would be. So I'm going to install this on my machine, and we'll see how it goes. But this gauge cost me like $40 to get here, and all I'm going to use is the face. I'm sure that I would have paid more than that from Sunnen for it if they had it. And at that point, I really needed it. The gauge is fine. It's just this part of the gauge was damaged. Everything else about the gauge is acceptable and it works. So if you get into a little situation like that, sometimes it's, I don't know if you'd call it thinking outside of the box or not, but that's kind of what I did on this one. And we'll find out shortly how close it is. I believe it's an exact match. The gauge is pretty much the same as the gauge that's on mine, except of course this one's for amps, but doesn't matter what it is as long as the frame's the same. And like a lot of companies, I would believe that they made gauges that were based off a particular schematic or a drawing. So we'll see how good it works. So you'll have to excuse the heater. We are on the other side of the shop, and this is my new CK10 machine. A little new to me anyhow. Of course, we gotta make sure that everything looks like it's gonna be okay. Make sure that that adjustment for the gauge is setting, doesn't affect nothing. Okay, the gauge does have a little stain on its face, but I'm not going to really care about that too much, but yeah, there's a little stain there. It looks like it's going to fit. I'm going to get out the screws. They are very small, and put them in a zip baggie. I don't know if I did myself a favor or not. Hopefully we don't drop any down in the grate of the machine, but we're going to try to put them in here. So as far as I can tell right now, I don't want to tighten anything too tight. It's Bakelite, very brittle stuff. It's actually got a crack in it already. That was the way I purchased it. I obviously purchased it off of eBay, so I just have to be careful with it, and you know, it'll probably last as long as I'll need it. We really want to be careful we don't over tighten it. It's got a hairline crack there. Probably been there for a long time. We want to make sure that our trim adjustment and our gain is going to work. Yeah, it seems like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Make sure that that's not binding on anything. I think we're okay. I'm gonna check it. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'm gonna get her out a little further. We got the screw head straight up. We're straight up there, we're off, so. Okay. You need that little dimple, little post, I should say, not dimple, standing straight up. And that's the way it needs to be for adjustment purposes. And then I'm assuming the round part where this flares out like a horseshoe is for the round part of the gauge trim adjustment. That's what I'm going to call it, a trim adjustment. Okay. Okay. I'm just tightening these up just a little tiny bit, not much, because like I said, this is all Bakelite. It's very old. It's brass inserts potted into it, and I'm sure that if you tighten it up too tight, it'll break. But now that I know what it is, and that you can find these, some of these gauges you can find still new on eBay. Of course, you'd only want the face of the gauge. Then, you know, an obsolete gauge can be available. And like I said, a lot of the ones that I seen online were, you know, this dimension. So I would have to believe that a lot of their gauges that they made, not every single one, but were very similar in characteristics and dimension. I mean, if you're making a bunch of different gauges, why would you make them all different sizes when you can have one setup, one tooling for, you know, multi gauges? So we're going to carefully open them holes up in that gasket because I don't want to force them brass pins in because I don't want to break the Bakelite. So I'm going to open up these holes just a little bit. So I got a round tail file, rat tail, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to open up these holes just a little bit. Everything shrunk, you know, the rubber shrunk a little bit. Doesn't seem like it wants to do very much, but I'll just clean them up a little bit. Make sure you don't hit the wires behind the back of the box. File onto them. You don't want any kind of excitement going on with that. Okay. It's a little snug. Well, there she be. Well, it's pretty close. It seems like it's the adjustments working on it. It's just that needle might have got bent a little bit, but I'm not going to fool with it. It's working the way it's supposed to. I don't want to ruin anything. If it's off a little bit, I still can see load, so that ain't the end of the day. want to keep it fairly snug, but I don't want it to a point where I have to worry about breaking it. And of course, we want it so the oil don't migrate into the back of the panel, which it should be all right out here. So that's one less thing to do. So yeah, I got a Ck10 machine, and I'm getting rid of my manual hone. I'm getting to the point where it's just too much work for me to hone out manually. My arms won't let me do it anymore. Hopefully we can get this up and running in a couple weeks. I've got still a few things I got to do to it. Well, that's going to be just a short little video. Hope it wasn't too boring, but that was my solution on a obsolete, excuse me, gauge face that I could no longer get from anybody. At least I couldn't. And there it is. Thanks for watching.